told to ask if every table has one of these. It was actually Rabbi Greenberg who taught me something you may remember, that there are certain numbers that are very important numbers. It is so great to see all of you. Phenomenal. And I want to start with one word. Don't get too excited. I have a couple after that as well. But I just want to start with the word todah. Thank you. So often we end with a list of thank yous as an after the fact, but none of this would be possible. We couldn't even begin to have this moment without so many people. And Deva and I are so happy to be with you to celebrate this milestone in the history of B'nai Israel. So please join with me in saying Todah Rabbah, and some of these are repeats, but they cannot be said enough. But Todah Rabbah first to a group of people who actually are not here and have no idea that this evening is happening, but whom we must acknowledge at this critical time. The young men and women who are defending our homeland in Israel from daily barrages of rockets. We pray for both peace and security there, and to the members of the IDF, to people in this room who have family connections to Israel, let's say a humble Todah Rabbah for their strength and resolve at this time. Todah Rabbah. It's humbling to be here tonight with all this going on in Israel, but on a much local front, Todah Rabbah, thank you go to the Robinsons and the entire dinner committee for creating such a beautiful event. Say it with me, Todah Rabbah. For. We need to hear it. To Linda and Frank, David, Debbie, Ruby, Jeff, Mark, Jerry, and Steve, the entire leadership. I'm beginning to suspect whether, Linda, you actually, have an 8th day that you rest on, because it's incredible what you do. The hours and care and heart and soul that you all have poured into this place. Say it. Todah Rabbah. The clergy and leadership and staff of Temple Kol Ami, whose vision of a community collaboration has brought about a cooperation that is truly a blessing on all sides. Todah Rabbah. And Rabbi Berger, who as your rabbi these 2+ years has embodied a statement that I really wish was not originated by the Hair Club for Men, but is such a great line. He is not only your rabbi, he is also a member. I remember when we moved to Detroit, it was, shall we say, a different time for the Pistons. They were right, they were winning the championship. 2004, I know they beat the 76ers a couple nights ago for their first win, but when we moved, Deva remarked that this was a shul that if we were not a rabbinic family, that we would want to join as members. And so I know that feeling of wanting to be both member and rabbi, and I know we will all agree that it is such a blessing to have you, Rabbi Berger, as the rabbi in this community, and I know it will be a continued blessing to have you and Laura and Talia and Adina as a part of your community going forward into the next chapters of B'nai Israel. And so we say together, Todah Rabbah. Because this place would not be what it is without every single one of you, I want you to turn to one another and turn to the person next to you at the table right behind you that you haven't even turned around except for to step on their napkin and say, Todah Rabbah. When Deva and I were moving to Philadelphia, it was a time of great uncertainty for many of the people in this room, for the B'nai Israel community. But I remember speaking to David Saperstein and saying that I knew one thing for certain. This I knew, that there would still be a vibrant, Shabbat-centered, conservative, Jewish, multi-generational shul community on the Walnut Lake corridor. I never doubted that. And why? Because you needed a shul. in the community, whether it be for reasons of walking on Shabbat or for reasons of just having a community shul, you needed a shul. And for many of you, you joined because there was a shul that needed you. But one thing I learned quickly about the people who are here celebrating these 2 years and celebrating the almost 80 years of history of B'nai Israel in its many locations, going back to Pontiac, this place is a success because you know when there's a shul that needs you, and because you know that you need a shul. This place is a success because you don't hesitate to put what we call, to put skin in the game. Skin in the game is a phrase that I think captures the best of what B'nai Israel is, has been, and will continue to be. You heard of the phrase? It means to be completely and truly and personally invested. Now, many of you may remember that I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I'll share with you some of the possible origins, the possible etymologies of the phrase "skin in the game" for just a minute. It may have originally come from a skin being a measure of wealth. A skin could be a wallet or an animal skin that was literally traded as wealth. And certainly, by your very presence here tonight, a contribution of resources that has made this chapter of B'nai Israel possible, you have shown to have that kind of skin in the game. But another origin of the term states that skin might be what is called a synecdoche, where a part of the something symbolizes the whole. It's like a head of cattle, meaning the whole cow. I told you I'm a nerd. Just bear with me for a second. If that's the case, then having skin in the game means that you are all in. Not just a little bit, but all the way, body and mind, your entirety dedicated to this place, in what you do, in who you are, in how you work and volunteer and identify as a Jew and as a person. That's what it means to have skin in the game. Now that level of dedication and passion and commitment, it can be dangerous, of course, if it's not coupled with a true love and kindness and caring for one another. I want to pause for just a moment to do a little learning with you on that very topic, because when the committee and I spoke on the phone about whether this event would be about laughter or reminiscence or learning Torah or celebration or any other goal, the answer was yes, all of the above. So we're going to pause for station identification here to remember who we are at our core, a learning, growing Jewish community. We're going to learn just a little bit of Torah together about how having skin in the game is critical and wonderful and dangerous if you don't do it right, if you don't do it the way that B'nai Israel does it. This is a Mishnah, a teaching from the second chapter of the tractate Yoma. And it says, "Varishona kol mi sherotzeh litrom et hamizbech torem." Originally, any priest who wished to remove the ashes from the altar in the temple, doesn't sound like the most glorious job. It makes that act of folding the kiddush lunch tablecloth with the liquid still in the cups a little bit actually enviable. But the priests were so passionate about their work that it happened that there were many of them who would want to clean the ashes off of the altar. And so they would have a race. They would run and ascend the ramp of the altar. Now the problem is that sometimes there was a tie. And so it says the following. If two of them were tied, the officer of the watch would say to them, "Show me a finger, raise a finger." And then they would count how many they put forth, 1 or 2. Now I need to share with you something, folks. I told you I'm a nerd. But Jews are smart. We invented rock, paper, scissors. I mean, shoot, we are creative. Think about it. Without this priestly invention, how many last cookies on a plate would go uneaten? With no way to determine who gets the last cookie on the plate, how many pickup basketball games would never get off the ground? Because the captains would have no way of knowing who gets to pick the team first. How many preteen boys would come up with a really stupid dare, but have no way of determining who would go first to try the stupid act, had we not invented rock, paper, scissors on the ramp to the altar. But we did! But now let me show you where it gets dangerous. They go overboard. It says, It happens that they ran up the ramp, they were tied, but as they were running, one pushed the other off the ramp, he broke his leg. Oy. And so, when the courts realized that this could become dangerous, they decided they would do it by lottery. They go overboard. The passion for being a part of the community, for leading in this way, even in this menial task of cleaning the ashes from the altar, in every small contribution that the priest could possibly do, the passion has a danger of spilling over. So yes, having enough passion where we say we have skin in the game can be dangerous. But it is necessary. It's what fuels the spirit of community. Everyone knows that fuel is flammable, but everyone knows that it's what is necessary to make things go. It provokes a level of emotion that can be difficult to contain and guide and lead. Certainly when I was a new rabbi in this community, there were times I learned that lesson, but I'll tell you, I would not trade that passion and sense of volunteerism for anything in the world. It is a true gift. What would happen if no priests were to run up the ramp? Here at B'nai Israel, that passion, even when it is so much, is contained and managed by one word: chesed. True love and care and concern for one another.